Good morning, folks. I'm Tennie McCarty. I'm the founder and one of the owners of Shades of Hope Treatment Center in Buffalo Gap, Texas. It's an all-addiction treatment center with a primary focus on eating disorders and codependency. And the reason I've been in the field for over 40 years and have worked in primarily drug and alcohol, and 33 years ago, I put in a center where we would treat all addictions, because what I realized that so many addicts will treat one addiction and then they trade off to another addiction, a lot of times in recovery from their primary addiction. So that's why we talk and I make videos about process addictions and different forms of addiction that can be as deadly as a substance abuse, such as drugs, alcohol, eating disorders, nicotine. So today I'm going to be talking about the process addiction of spending and debting. And in today's time, during this pandemic and our world being turned upside down, our financial world, our medical world, I mean, everyone is struggling. I don't know of anyone that doesn't have a little bit of fear. You know, if you're showing up, I think everyone has a little bit of concern. And the key is to not get into a lot of that type of fear that is just so devastating that it becomes, it makes a person immobile. So what I want to talk about is how spending and debting can be an addiction. And the primary thing about any addiction is if it fills the hole in the soul. Most addicts have what we call a hole in the soul. And when we put a substance in there or a behavior, it changes the way we feel. And, you know, addiction is about a brain chemistry, and it's about the body and brain chemistry. Now, not everyone who has, overspends a little bit has an addiction. And you may if it continues. And so that's why I want to talk about it today as far as how to recognize it. And then I'm going to do another video later to give you some assignments on actually how to start treating it. So beginning, and I'll talk a little bit about myself, because I think when we talk from the heart, what comes from the heart goes to the heart. What comes from the head goes over the head. So that's why I do a lot of personal disclosure, because it's easier for me to talk about something that I have worked through. Otherwise, it's me trying to tell people how to get back from somewhere I haven't been. You know, I haven't been to Africa, so I'm not going to tell you how to get back from there. But I have been a debtor spender and have got into some trouble, and it could have gotten a lot worse. But I want to share my journey with you. I have had an eating disorder. I had an eating disorder all my life and went to treatment 35 years ago to treat my eating disorder, which was primarily compulsive overeating and bulimia. And I used a lot of food to fill that vacant building on the inside. And usually that vacant building is created from some form of childhood abuse, abandonment. That's how we have that vacantness on the inside. Then if we have the brain chemistry of an addict, when we use a substance or a behavior, it changes the way we feel. So that's how you know if you have an addiction, if it changes the way you feel. If you go towards spending to feel better. So that's kind of a good indicator. So with compulsive overeaters and any eating disorder, a lot of times in recovery is when we get into the compulsive spending. And myself, I've been in good recovery from my eating disorder. I'll be 35 years next month, September the 19th. But when I got home from treatment, I remember making a conscious decision to take my credit card and to go to the mall and spend. And I had really intended to buy maybe a little pair of new earrings. And I did. And then I bought me some shoes, and I bought me a dress. And that started my compulsive spending, because it did what the compulsive eating did. It changed the way I felt. and I would get excited, and I could hardly wait till I got home to try it on and look at myself in the mirror. And then I would go again to the mall and again, to the point that I was buying stuff that I didn't need. If I had bought one pair of shoes, I got a pair in every color. And then I would feel shame and embarrassed, and half the time wouldn't even wear the things I was buying. But by the end of the year, I knew I was in trouble with the credit card. And I'd spent up about $20,000, and my husband would have paid it off. And I told him, no, that was mine, and I needed to pay that debt off. And I really didn't know how I was going to go about doing that. And I started praying for an answer, and a woman was put in my life that I had known years ago, and I'd heard, kind of through the grapevine, that she had gone to prison for credit card check bounce, I don't know what. But I saw her one day, and she told me her story about how she had gotten into so much debt, and how Debtors Anonymous, she was introduced to Debtors Anonymous while in prison. And I wasn't in prison in a brick and mortar building, but I was in prison from the debt that I was creating. And so she taught me and told me about Debtors Anonymous. I went to Dallas to a couple of meetings, came back to Abilene, and I started a Debtors Anonymous meeting and put a little ad in the paper, and we had about 50 people at the first meeting. A year later, there was only 3 of us left. When you get into people's pocketbook, it gets very personal. They do not like to talk about, most people don't like to talk about their sex life or what they do with their money. Those are 2 subjects that a lot of times are pretty kept guarded from people. So the money part is a lot of times is very shame-based, and people don't like to talk about it until they have to. So what happened with me is in that I was introduced through Debtors Anonymous and through this woman, a book that it absolutely helped me, and I read every word of it and did everything that this book said. And it's called How to Get Out of Debt and Stay Out of Debt and Live Prosperously. Prosperously is a big word, how to live in prosperity. And this book taught me how to do that. And I will tell you, there's some hard work involved in it. And what happened with me is being willing to do the processes this book talks about. I found a lot of freedom and have never found it necessary to go back into that type of debting and spending. Every once in a while, not now in the pandemic, I never get out of my house. My children have me pretty well quarantined here because of my age. They have a fear that their mama might get sick, and that's sweet. So I don't go out, shopping. But I'll tell you what people are really experiencing today, and that is online shopping. That is where, by the click of that little button, you can get in a lot of trouble. Now, people are buying essentials online, but the company that is having the biggest financial boost in their history is Amazon. Duh, really? Because that's where people are buying any and everything that they need. And if you're doing that and you get excited when you push that button, and then you get even more excited when that truck drives up out front and it's like Santa Claus coming to see you, you might have a problem with spending and debting. And so if you're early into it, that would be great, because now you can gather some tools about how it can become an addiction. And if you're full blown into it, I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to get out of it. But there are, this can be a severe problem, debting and spending. And the bottom line, every addiction has a bottom line. A bottom line. What happens if it's left untreated? The bottom line for most, and for spending addiction, is suicide or death from stress-related illnesses. People jump out, of buildings. They commit suicide over fear of financial ruin and losing their status in life, and having to lose their houses and their cars and all of those things that make them feel like that they're somebody. And so that's suicide. And then the other thing is when you carry that fear and that worry in your body, the body begins to break down in stress-related illnesses. And the body can die from heart attacks, high blood pressure. It's down the line, stomach ulcers. There's any stress-related illness. So, but you don't have to get that far. That's the good news. There is recovery and treatment for any addiction if you're willing to get some information and take the simple action that it takes to become debt-free and spending-free. Now, spending-free, it's real close to an eating disorder because, you have to eat in order to sustain the body, and we do have to spend money. Money, the only thing money is an energy. It's an exchange for goods and services. That's all it is. We make it so much more. If we have money, we feel good. If we don't have money, we feel bad. And, a lot of people, when they get into the spending addiction, it's about their self-esteem comes. That's where their self-esteem comes from, is looking good out in the community and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, if you lose your job and you lose that standing in the community by losing that big house, those big cars, all of that, then your esteem goes with it. Now, I will tell you, self-esteem is an inside job. It's not from the outside in, it's from the inside out. When you feel good about yourself and you have a relationship with the God of your understanding, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You're going to feel good about yourself. So, I want to talk a little bit about things that money can't buy. Money can buy a lot of things, but it really can't buy some of the things that I'm going to talk about right now. So the things that money can't buy is, I want to talk too about, and then I'll go into what it can't buy. When you think of a diet, we think of restriction. Oh, I have to give up this, I have to give up that. Here at Shades, we talk about, for treating eating disorders, it's like a food plan. You have a plan that you go by. There's over 240 wonderful foods to choose from. So you have a plan. It's not about restriction. You have, we have to eat certain foods and not eat this and all that. It's a food plan. Same concept with dating and spending. Is that you have, instead of a budget, I could hear budget and get sick at my stomach, but a spending plan, and that's what you'll learn in this little book, is how to set up a spending plan and how to best spend your money, and that puts you in charge of your money instead of, the things being in charge, and then the credit card companies being in charge of your life. So there is a difference between budget and spending plan. So with that, I want to share with you, and maybe some of you have seen this list. I've kind of changed it up a little bit, but these are things that money can't buy, and one of them is manners. Money can't buy good manners. You either have them or you don't. If you don't have them, you can learn them. I grew up in a home that my folks did. They were very ill. Mother was an alcoholic and prescription drug addict. My dad was a violent man and all of that. And they didn't teach me because they didn't know how to show good manners. And how I learned how to have good manners was watching other people. I was an observer. I observed other people, and I did what they did, because I wanted to live a different life, and that started when I was about 10 years of age. So, good manners. Saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, goes a long ways. Opening the doors for people goes a long ways. Holding it open for a while goes a long ways. Morals, morality, you cannot buy morality, so you can give that one up. You can buy a lot of immoral things with money, but you can't buy morality. And then respect. Money, like I said, can buy a lot of things. It can, you can give away a lot of money. And but a lot of people, or some people, I don't know, a lot of people will take their money and give a lot of it away, hoping that they will gain respect. But if you don't have other qualities, you're not going to gain respect. People are going to be mad at you because you didn't give them more. And so if you don't have character, you can't buy character. And character is an inside job. It is who you are when people aren't watching. It's what you do when people aren't watching you. And you've heard all this, but I'm just kind of bringing it home to you again. And then another one is common sense. You cannot buy common sense. You have to stop and be willing to use your brain and use it wisely. Another thing is trust. If you're not a trustworthy person, I don't care how much money you have, people are not going to trust you. Patience. You can't buy patience. My dad used to say, you're the most impatient child I've ever seen. And I'll tell you, through recovery, that's one of the things that I have worked on and I've been blessed by and with is I do have more patience today. Now, I do have a tendency to want to get things done and get them done fast, but I do have more patience than I've ever dreamed that I could have. So you can't buy it. You have to. This is something that you have to acquire and practice. And then class. You've known a lot of wealthy people. They could have all the money in the world and look as tacky can be. You know, I love what Dolly Parton says about her big hair and her dress and her makeup. She said it takes a lot of money to look this. I can't remember how she said this tacky. You know, to look this tacky, it takes a lot of money. And she jokes about not looking classy, but that's her trademark. You know, she has a classy heart on the inside, but you can't buy class. And integrity. Integrity pretty well sums all of this up. If you don't have integrity, and integrity means keeping your word, just saying what you're going to do what you say, keep your word. If you promise to do something, do it. That's how you gain respect and all these other things and trustworthiness. And the bottom line is, and the most important of it all, is love. To learn to love the person, place, or thing that makes you angry. And love is an inside job. If you don't love yourself, regardless of how much money you have or don't have, you're going to be miserable. So, thanks for listening. I'm going to do another short video and give you some, maybe some little hints on some things that you could start doing right today on how to stop debting and spending. Thanks.